The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining today's Sales Chat Live. As we have a couple more folks join us in today's call, I have two logistics I'd like to share with you. First of all, for any questions you may have, please type them into the chat box below and we will answer them vocally on air. Or we also have Trent and team moderating on the side answering your questions back in the text box. Also, the slides and recording of this webinar will be posted on Arubapedia Sales Essentials in the latest news section, as well as directly linked to in this week's Sales Connect newsletter. With that said, I will now hand off presenter rights to Carolyn.
So real quick, thanks everybody for joining in today. What I'd like to do is make sure that everybody understands the whole idea with this particular webinar. We've invited Attivo, who is a Aruba exchange partner. We used to call it ClearPass Exchange, but now that we acquired Niara, we're going to take and change the name slightly so that we can make it more broader. So if you start saying Aruba Exchange, that's the old ClearPass Exchange ecosystem partnerships. Carolyn Crandall is the CMO over at Attivo Networks, and she's going to basically guide us through the Attivo solution. And the idea here is that if you're an account and you want to work with your customer on enhancing their security inside the network, the idea is that ClearPass comes into the environment. ClearPass can be used to do authentication, enforcement at the edge, and then Attivo is inside the network, provides a deception and automated response tool that your customers can then use in conjunction with ClearPass. ClearPass will provide some information to them. They see something, an anomaly, they can ask ClearPass to then take and bounce the device off the network. On that, I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn, and it's all your show, Carolyn.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate the time to be here with everybody today and for the interest in how our solutions work together. One of the unique things about Attivo is that we really do try to expand the value of our partners, and by adding the early detection and the automated incident response. So what I'll do is I'll take you through an overview of the company. We'll go into the product technology, and then Joseph will wrap up with a demo. And again, welcome questions. Feel free if you want more perspective or anything. Just want to make sure that this is valuable for you. All right, let's see. All right, so the first thing, and there are so many security vendors that are out there, and we just came off of RSA a couple weeks ago where you had 700 vendors that were all vying for everybody's attention and interest, and we all tend to use the same word. So the vision of why Attivo was established was for the in-network deception, as Trent said. And we're not trying to be a prevention perimeter NAC SIM type device. Instead, what we're trying to do is give early visibility and detection of the threats that are inside the network, and then take that attack information and simplify the incident handling through automations and integrations with our third-party partners, like with the ClearPass solution. And so 3 things that you'll hear recurring throughout the presentation today is how we create an adaptive defense, and that is working with our partners so that they get a balance of prevention, detection, and response. The third is that it's all deception-based, so we're not trying to do things around big data analysis or pattern matching or lookup. It's all based upon deception decoys and lures to bait and misdirect the attackers so that their presence is revealed. And then the third piece is around the heavy integration for automation to simplify that incident handling. So a little bit of background about Attivo. So the company has been shipping products for the last couple of years, and some of the things that we hear from both customers and analysts is the differentiation for Attivo is on the maturity and the scalability of the platform. We are installed in several large global deployments of 7, 8, 9 different countries, and the unique piece of it is in addition to having the network-based solution where we put our actual devices out there, we also have endpoint deception lures that get placed out there. And with those are in the hundreds of thousands of deployments. So this is not an MLab solution. If you are looking at helping put this into a customer, you can know that it has been pressure tested and that it is scalable, reliable, and they're not going to have 1.0 product problems. Customer base. So top 5 technologies, and the one I'll give honorable mention to is retail. That has been a very hot area for us, especially going into 2017. So about 40% of our customers are Fortune 500 level. Sorry, this GoToMeeting screen keeps wanting to pop up. The top use cases are around visibility into those in-network threats. The question that we'll challenge our customers a lot with is, how do you know what's inside the network? And this gives you the eyes and ears visibility to that. The second challenge is around lateral movement. And so some people may say, well, we'll be able to catch it, but they're not able to watch the lateral movement of these attacks and also be able to track that information so that if it is a polymorphic type of an attack, that they can get all of those additional signatures, which then could be fed into systems like ClearPath to help prevent and block that attack from doing further damage. Accelerating incident response, and then, as I mentioned before, the automations of that incident handling.
Hey, Carolyn?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. Can you name maybe a few customers and then possibly tell us if you have anything in the federal space going on?
So great question, thank you. So if you go to our website under resources, we have a lot of information about customer testimonials there. One of my favorite is Aflac. Aflac, DJ Long, he's presented a really nice case study about how he has used our technology and the benefits that it's brought to Aflac for that visibility, and also how he has used it. And again, I can't remember exactly how far he goes into detail on the few-minute video, but the other thing that we do hear a lot from him and from other customers is how they use us in red team testing. So if they have pen testing going on, they'll put our deception servers in the network, or they're already in the network, so that as the red team tries to penetrate the network, actually he does have it. They had one of them that was trying to attack a web server, and for about 2.5 hours that pen tester played around inside of our deception environment, not realizing that they were actually just in our hall of mirrors. And what they were able to do was to track every movement, report on it, and then when they had to present their findings, they were able to show the network resiliency based upon the detection of the attack and the being able to track all of the attack activity. There are several other case studies that are up there as well. And then we also this week at the ICE conference that is in Atlanta, both Aflac and Home Depot were nominated. The CISOs were nominated for their highest level award based upon the deception deployments that they made. And again, if you have particular verticals or segments that you have a prospect in, definitely reach out to your account manager or to our partnership team here as well, and we can help get you connected with a peer reference. It's some of our strongest tool for going ahead and creating new businesses. We have a large enough customer base we can produce those references on a peer level pretty easily.
Is the interest good in the federal space and the government space?
Thank you. So yes, we just finished our common criteria certification. We put a press release out on that last week, and the FIPS certification is going to be out in the next probably quarter or so. And we are on several contract vehicles as well. So there is a lot of interest with the 3-letter acronym agencies in what we do. And there are some things now that we have these certifications that will start to occur. So this is a very good time to partner with Attivo on the federal space.
Perfect, thank you. And then because it's a sales-oriented call, people want to know if it's U.S. based or if you're in EMEA or Asia Pac as well.
Yeah, excellent question. And so 2 parts of that. So one, we are a U.S.-based company, and one that allows us to get things like the common criteria certification and work with the federal government, where our competition, because most of them are Israeli-based, cannot achieve those certifications. And then as far as how our distribution of overall sales go, predominantly right now we are in North America and also in the Meta region. There is a lot of interest around oil and gas and protecting refineries and energy plants. So that has been a very strong market for us both here and internationally. And then we also have a distributor called Macnica in Japan that helps us cover the Asian markets.
Thanks.
You bet. All right, let me keep going there. All right. So these are the challenges that we're directly responding to. So that visibility into the in-network threats, that eyes and ears. The things that we hear with other detection technologies is there's just too many logs, too much data, and a lot of times they come through as alerts that get dismissed as false positives or something of minimal consequence. And so the ability of our technology, because we have our own sandbox technology as part of the solution, is that we can auto-correlate a lot of that attack information and simplify how the incident handling happens downstream from that. And then also from an alert base, we only go off when an attacker is engaged with us. So there's really no chance of a false positive because nobody should be knocking on our door. And if they are knocking on our door, we are going to provide the information, not only that it's a real activity or incident that needs to be looked at, but also give all of the attack information behind it as far as what the attacker is trying to do, what endpoint is infected, and the signatures needed in order to block it. Okay, and I mentioned earlier some of the global deployments that we have. To this point in time, nobody has had to add any staff in order to operate the Attivo solution. So that's whether it's deployment or the actual operating of the system. It is an extremely efficient system, and so even on these global deployments, the existing staff has been able to handle the addition of the product without any need for additional workload.
And the existing staff it's not networking people, right? It's people within security IT, correct?
You know, it's both. So one tech company, they run a global network. They have 2 people with security in their title, and they run this in, I believe, 6 countries. And they were able to do that without adding staff. We have one smaller biotech company. It's about 300 people. There's nobody with security in their title at all. And they are able to operate and run this, and they use it for board reporting as well, as far as being able to show that they can detect the attacks and that they've remediated the attacks. So from small to large, there's really no need. And the other thing that we do is we try to distill our attack information down into kind of human language, and so you don't have to be a sophisticated security analyst in order to be able to respond to these alerts. It'll tell you what the problem is and what you need to go do about it.
We have
Perfect. Thank you.
We have a few suggestions that have come up in the question panel. Federal deployments. I'm not sure. I'd have to check with Dawn, but I believe we are in the process of talking to a few. I don't know if we have any deployed yet, mainly because of the FIPS and common criteria that they're requiring, and we've just gotten those. So no federal deployments yet. Any UK-based case studies? Not off the top of my head. We aren't heavily deployed in the UK yet, mainly because we don't have a lot of reach there as of right now, but we are partnering with several distributors to do that. So that's forthcoming. Present in EMEA, yes, we are. We do have references, and they would be peer references. So if you do have any business in EMEA and you would like to reach out, yes, we can provide peer references across multiple companies in that region, some small and some very large, particularly in petrochemical and that type of industry. And I believe that is all the questions right now that have come up.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So let me keep going. We obviously recognize that there are choices in different detection technologies, and what this particular chart will show is that each of those different options has some limitations, and whether they're reliant on signatures or the amount of logs or false positives that they may generate. But some of the really unique things that you get with deception is not only the ability to give highly accurate detection, But we do something that a lot of customers have been bringing up, which is that we can slow down the attack. And so by getting the attacker to engage with us and to have them continue to believe that they're advancing the attack in our deception environment has given them the ability to slow down the attack and also study the attack so that they're better equipped to deal with it in case it surfaces in other parts of the network. All right. So getting a little bit deeper into what it is that the technology is, it's all based upon the Threat Matrix Deception and Response platform. And instead of just being a deception or a detection-only solution, we've tried to create a full circle that, if you think about it from a technical standpoint, it follows the NIST incident handling model. And that is being able to provide visibility into potential exposed attack paths, the real-time detection, the ability to analyze those attacks and create the forensic reporting, and then the ability to improve the response and the incident handling through those third-party integrations and information sharing. Regardless of the different disciplines, some of the things that we think about is how comprehensive or complete is the solution, and we pride ourselves in having the most comprehensive, and that falls in everything from both network to endpoint deception and detection, all the way through to scalability of everything from user networks, data centers, cloud, and into specialty environments such as IoT, SCADA, point-of-sale type systems. Authenticity really evolves around how authentic is the decoy, because if the attacker can figure out that it's deception, they're going to avoid it. And other vendors that try to do this with emulation, the attackers can figure that out. And so we use authentic, real operating systems, customizable services, and we can appear like the golden image of the production system so that it's really indistinguishable to the attacker. And then we do some things around dynamic deception to keep that environment fresh and avoid attacker fingerprinting. Accuracy, again, not to generate a lot of alerts, but they are substantiated in high fidelity alerts when we go off. And then obviously the scalability to be able to scale large networks and global deployments without needing to add staff. Some of the use cases that we hear from our customers and reasons why they buy is that, one, lateral movement detection. So once it's inside the network, how do you see where they are and what they're doing quickly? Insiders is another very big use case, along with supplier management and acquisition integration. The Home Depot that I mentioned earlier on was originally an acquisition use case, and they've expanded it to a broader use case and other implementations now. But they wanted visibility, just as did a large bottling company with their suppliers, to see when they had people connecting into their network, if they were trying to do anything that they shouldn't be, or if they were connecting bad things onto the network. A stolen credential is also something that will bypass most prevention systems. And that, along with man-in-the-middle, are other types of attacks that our solution will be able to detect. The exposed credential and the attack path assessment really comes to preventing that from happening in the first place. What we can do is we can show people where those credentials are that are exposed, where misconfigurations are. And even if you have, say, an admin that leaves the company and leaves their credentials on different systems, to date, there's been no way for a company to know about this. And with our technology, what they get is visibility into where those credentials are, and then they can go clean them up and create a trouble ticket to fix them. So some other things: ransomware, phishing, the specialty environments, and then the other scalability. And just in the spirit of time, I'll keep going on this. This is a bit of an eye chart, and I'm not going to go through every detail on here, but the point behind this one is there are a lot of things that you need both credential detection and lateral detection movement. So if your customer is thinking about different deception technologies, if they don't provide both network-based and endpoint-based detection, they will miss these things. And that's why having the comprehensive Attivo platform will give them the best detection for in-network threats that's available. Here's what the suite looks like. There's an overall platform here, and the BotSync is the core decoys and engagement engine. ThreatStrike is for the endpoint deception. Threat path is that attack path visibility, and threat ops is the piece where we really start to integrate with ClearPaths and be able to provide that automation and integration.
Hey, Carolyn.
Yep.
Can you describe like where your solution actually sits and then where data is collected in order to like I guess bubble that up to somebody like an analyst?
Absolutely. Give me one slide and I'll get the next 2 slides after this. I think answer both those questions. So I'll call that an excellent tee up question, and let me just kind of tee up the environment, and then we'll get into exactly that. As I pointed out before, the authenticity is a key piece, and so what you see here is an extremely robust set of operating systems and services that we support, which is more comprehensive than anyone else in the market. And the fact that we can do that golden image customization really puts us in a different place for authenticity, along with the dynamic deception, which will basically look at the environment, self-learn it, and then be able to spin up decoys even around attack information to say, hey, I think there's something suspicious in the network. Let's go ahead and tee up more decoys here. And then also after attacker engagement, it can actually respin the environment so that it can avoid the attacker fingerprinting. So very, very advanced deception techniques that make it so the attacker cannot tell that we're there. We ask every pen test that we know of, how long did it take you to detect or figure out that you were playing in an Attivo deception environment? And to date, the feedback we've had is that nobody has been able to detect that they were in our deception environment. So a testament to the authenticity and that this works. So to Trent's question before is where does this sit inside of the network? What you see here is the orange colored outlines, and those are basically the decoys. They get projected out onto the network, so these are not physical devices. They're basically sitting off of the trunk port of a switch and using unused IP addresses and to project the decoys. So extremely efficient and scalable way to put deception out there. And then when you look at the little credit cards on the actual production units, those are the endpoint deceptions, the files, the lures, the bait, the credentials that we put out there in order to lure the attacker into engaging. And we do that, as I mentioned before, across all user, data center, cloud, IoT, SCADA, and point of sale type of environments. And the big things here are that they're the endpoint pieces, they're agentless. And again, because these are using unused IP addresses and just projecting decoys, it's not in line, so there's no heavy network re-architecting or drain on the network to run this. Digging a little bit deeper into the endpoint side of things, we sell it as a suite. And on that suite, it comes with the ability to put out those deception credential and other bait. There's some things we do around ransomware, and I'll talk more about that in a second. And then also from a phishing side is we actually can give them an icon they could put on their employee's ribbon bar. So if they think they have a suspicious email, they can submit it, and then the bot sync will analyze the attachments and the links and determine if it was malicious or not. We have several customers. They basically take one VM in our analysis engine, and it takes hours of manual work that they spent before, automates the whole thing, and gives them a report as to whether the phishing email was malicious. Just a little snapshot of the comprehensiveness of the endpoint lures that we put out there. And then this is the ransomware environment. And the big takeaway from all of this is that not only do we put the SMB shares out there to attract the attacker into engaging with us versus a other network shared drive, but once they do start to engage with us, we do something we kind of jokingly call feed the beast. And what it does is it continues to feed information so that it stays continuously encrypting on our decoy and prevents it from being able to continue to spread throughout the network. And while we're doing that, we then would send the blocking information to and quarantining information over to our partners like ClearPath so that you can basically isolate that off the network and prevent it from being able to contaminate other parts of the network or come back in other places. And so really a unique functionality within our solution. So I talk a lot about the architecture, and so far I've talked about how the deception piece of it works for the detection. Once we've gotten that attacker to engage with us, it's then inside of the BotSync multi-correlation engine. And what this does is it lets the attack continue to play out laterally. And we can even open up a port out to command and control so that we can see what kind of command and instructions they're getting. And we do have, healthcare company, they polymorphic attack. It woke up every 7 to 15 hours and did something different. So in the end, we ended up picking up 5 different signatures that they were then able to load into their prevention system rules to prevent that attack from coming back in other places. And what that meant to them was 60 infected systems versus 2,000, right? So we were able to keep it from stopping the spread. And they would, their feedback was we probably eventually would have been able to figure this out, but we sped up the process that, again, mitigated the amount of systems that went down because of the attack. And then once we have all of that attack information and that forensic reporting, they can view it inside of the UI, or the information can get fed to SIMs, firewalls, NAC devices, or it can be put out into IOC, PCAP, sticks, CSV, other types of files as well. So here's a little snapshot of the dashboard. Joe is going to actually go into the dashboard and show you how it works. But again, it's about giving people the visibility, the information about the attacks, the top attacks, the severity of the attacks, and then the actions so that they can either click through it and do their blocking and quarantine, or they can set up rules like what we've done with Aruba in order to automate those processes. I'm sorry, ClearPass. ClearPass. I was doing so good. A little bit deeper insight into the visibility and the vulnerability assessment here. And one of the things we did before was we gave a lot of information in tables, and after our customers started using it, there was a request to have it more in a topographical map and something that was more visual. And so now what we do here is we give them a view of all the systems that are out on their network, and we can basically show them where their exposed credentials are, where the misconfigurations are, where maybe remnant credentials are left, so that they can create trouble tickets to clean up things as they need to. So prevent the attack from happening in the first place. The other thing is that networking teams get a lot of visibility to what's going on in the network, but security teams don't get that same level of visibility. With the BotSync solution, now what you see in this view is you see the actual production assets, and you also see where the decoys are placed. And then across the bottom, there's a time bar, and basically you can move the time so that you can see how the network changes over time. And that will help people understand their network. And then the next piece that we do is we give them insights into the attack and the lateral movement so that they can, again, see how did that attack play out. So again, they can look at any changes they need to make to their network or environment to mitigate any future risk and to shut down any attacks that may be in progress. And man-in-the-middle attacks are very tricky to be able to detect, and this is one of the ways that we are able to detect those man-in-the-middle attacks as they try to come through. Digging a little bit deeper into how we integrate with ClearPass is what you see here is a couple different networks, and when the attack comes through, the information will get fed into the BotSync. And then what we'll take is those signatures and attack information and feed it into ClearPass so that you're able to apply any policies to quarantine and block based upon what the customer has set up as their configuration requirements. The setup is extremely simple. What you see here is a snapshot. Basically, there are 4 very small steps to setting it up. So assigning the server name, the IP address, and then the severity of the attacks and the time for the attack, or the time that you want to set up to block or quarantine. And so very simple and very efficient if they want to set up the rules for full automation, or as I mentioned earlier, if they want to go in and look at the attack detail or line by line, they can do that as well. And then basically with 2 clicks, they can block or quarantine it from that part in the UI as well. So this was part of our original technology, and then at the beginning of the year we introduced Threat Ops. And what that did was instead of having this as a one-to-one relationship between our technology and our integration partner, we created a whole threat orchestration type platform, and it was really designed around improving the incident handling and response. And so a customer can go in and create a playbook, and they can go in and check that I want Attivo and Aruba, and maybe they have other vendors in the mix as well. And they can go ahead and customize this based upon their environment so that all of that attack information can get shared, and there's a better aggregate view of what's going on. The attack then gets scored, the playbook's created, and it'll create repeatable processes for the incident response team, again, making them more efficient and effective in their incident handling. In addition to Aruba, these are some of the other partnerships that we have around analyzing, containing, and eradicating. And eradicating is really around the threat hunting piece. So if they have these other technologies, they can also take this information and look for other forensic artifacts throughout the network as well. So overall, going back to that full continuous threat management view, we give them the visibility and early detection. We automate that analysis and forensic reporting, and then we improve the incident response and handling with the integrations and also the Threat Ops platform. Okay, so in the end, why Attivo? What we've taken you through is a lot of our competition just hangs their shingle on deception alone, and so anybody that is looking for that technology can get not only the most effective and efficient deception that's available on the market, but also an entire platform that will help them with continuous threat management. It is the highest authenticity solution out there based upon the real operating system and golden image customization. It's a very mature platform. And then, of course, we extend the value of their current infrastructure by automating the attack information and the incident response pieces. Just some additional things that are out there. So there are several analyst reports out there by Gartner 451, Tag Cybersecurity, and Frost & Sullivan. IDC is also working on a report right now as well, which we'll probably see in the next couple months. So it is getting covered very well. Attivo has been the primary spotlight in most of these reports as the vendor of choice. We continue to get many awards based upon the innovation of our technology, and we also, as I mentioned earlier on, our customers really say it's the best, and that's why we love the peer references, because these are the things that they're saying. Eyes and ears of my network, it makes hackers have to be right. So one was a human resources company, the second one is Aflac. You know, let me know if there's somebody with their hand in the cookie jar. It was fun to watch Attivo toy with the pen testers was another comment, and Attivo is my nerve center, which was said by a major retailer. And what they meant by that is that when we go off, they know it's a nerve. It's not something they should ignore. And then because we do feed the information into other systems, that he uses those to kind of set the first step in the automation to that incident handling and response. So I know I went through a lot of information fairly quickly. I don't know if there's any other questions at this point. If not, what I'll do is hand over to Joseph, and he will take you through a demo of the platform.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. So this is the first thing that you're going to see when you log on to the platform. Our dashboard, we tried to make it very interactive and give you the most relevant information first. This is actually the second iteration of our dashboard, and we fixed it based on a lot of customer feedback. So if you look on the left-hand side, you're going to see some quick information, summary information about what's going on with the actual clients. So how many decoys are deployed, how many threat credentials are deployed, what IPs we've seen, etc. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the latest sets of events that have shown up that we've detected. And then in the middle, you're going to see the three graphs, the attack phases, the events by severity, and then by time. Now, all of these elements are clickable, but we break them down in these ways so that you can zero in on the specific things that you're looking for. So under attack phase, These are the phases of a regular attack, but we've added two things here. We've added man-in-the-middle and we've added deceptive credentials. And we consider those really priority events because man-in-the-middle is extremely difficult to detect, so if we do detect it, it's something you need to look at right away. And with deceptive credentials, we consider that a high priority event because that is confirmation that our deceptive credentials were stolen and are being reused in some way, shape, or form. And then on the events by severity, you can look at very high, high, or medium. And then by time, and the graph at the bottom, you can go to specific days and look at what's happening in that day. For example, the spike that happened on the 22nd where we had 569 attacks, that was me testing a shell-shock vulnerability on one of our engagement servers. Now at the bottom, you're going to see some summary information about what's happening in terms of the attacks that we're seeing, the types of malware that have been submitted or analyzed, and then things that are happening with the network. Now, the good thing about this is that from here, I can actually do a quarantine event. And actually, let me show you on this one because this one has the clear path configured. The other one is not configuring for some reason. I can quarantine in 2 clicks a suspicious IP through Aruba ClearPass or any one of our other blocking and quarantining integrations. Now, there was a question that was asked a little bit earlier, and I had answered it on chat, but I'm going to bring it up again because a few people have asked it. Attivo versus Niara. So Niara does behavioral analytics. Essentially, what it does is it examines what's going on with the user behavior and will detect when someone is operating outside of the regular behavioral bounds. So it does that using analytics. What Attivo does is it does deception-based detection of threats that are doing reconnaissance or lateral movement across the network. Now, because of the type of data we detect and where we sit on the network, we can actually feed some of that information back to Niara to aid in the analytics. Now, I was actually one of the companies that Niara had asked. I used to work for a bank, and they came to us when I was on their C-cert and asked for advice on how to make the platform better. So I'm kind of familiar with Niara because I actually inputted some of the, I had input into how that was developed. So I can tell you that based on what I know of Niara, Attivo's information can be fed to Niara and make their analytics better. So we can work together, but we don't do the exact same things. Now, if you notice that there was no configuration there for ICE, and that's because we haven't updated it in the UI yet, but ICE is a partner, and we do have integrations with them to do primarily blocking. So let me get back to this now. So from here, like I said, in 2 clicks, I can immediately quarantine. But if I want to do a bit more investigation, I can say, for example, click on this IP, and I can look at information that's happening and sort of look at how an attack is progressing across the timeline. So if I want more information, particularly, here's some ARC poisoning attacks that are shown up on man-in-the-middle. All the information that an analyst would need is right here in the description. But if I wanted to, I can look at all of the events that were associated with that alert, and I can export that via sticks, IOC, in CSV format or via PCAP so I can do additional investigation. Now, if I pull up and go to the event view, this is actually that activity. So everything that we're seeing right now, the visualization, this is everything that's happened over the last quarter. So I can actually change the scale of this and bring it back, and then I can play and see how the attacks have played over time as systems come on and come back off. Now, if I wanted to, I can hover over some of these attackers and get additional information in terms of what they're actually doing. So, for example, this particular attacker, this was a Fortinet device, it looks like, local with that IP, and it was communicating across. So I can get details on these attackers, and I can see the systems that they're actually touching or trying to do, and then these arrows show the type of attack they're actually attempting. We're at about 10 minutes after, so I got about 5 more minutes. So let me go ahead and show you some more of the things that we have. In our analysis tab, this is our threat path. So what you saw in that previous display was the visualization of the database that we're actually collecting. And if you wanted to, you can look at the data in the table itself if you wanted to look at it in those terms. But this is a different view. This is actually our threat path functionality. Now, our threat path functionality basically shows you ways that an attacker can move laterally across the environment through misconfigurations or exposed credentials. So for example, these paths show ways that attackers can jump from host to host. Now, let's say I wanted to look specifically at RDP, and let's look at this particular one. I know for a fact then that this host is storing these usernames and passwords for RDP and SMB and other exposed credentials, so that if they were able to compromise hostname 2, they can immediately laterally move to hostname 4 based on the credentials that are stored in hostname 2. Now, if this was from an administrator laptop, for example, to a critical server, I can mark that path as critical. I can find alternate paths that other attackers would use. I can quarantine it, again, using that functionality through Aruba ClearPath, or I can pull down the information. Now, what's really interesting about this is that because we've run this and we can look through the environment, we can also look to see if there are stored credentials for a user that has left the company. So generally, you would deactivate those credentials, but that's only done at AD. If there are specific credentials stored for that username that are on a point-to-point basis that are not part of AD, you wouldn't know that they're there, and an attacker can take advantage of them unless you go and look for them, and then you can see that, for example, hostname 4 has a matching for user 8 and user 13 based on the search that I did for user 1, and I can make that even further. I can narrow that even further and look specifically for user 13 and isolate that specific username and password for this network location. So you know that that exposed credential can be used by the attacker to laterally move across the network. And then this is our malware analysis sandbox, where we can do full analysis of everything that happens. Let me quickly show you a report, because these are very detailed reports. This one is a URL. Let me go look for a different one. No, these are all. Let me pull up. This one has a lot more malware samples. Here we go. So this was a payload drop that happened on this engagement server. The report is rather extensive. This is Mimikatz, and it's going to be classified as a hacker tool. And why is it not coming up? There we go. Oh, did someone mess with the? Oh, let me pull it down as a download. So there's several different ways to view it. This is the actual screen. Let me make that a little bit bigger. This is the PDF report so that you can see the analysis. So this was elevator.exe. Now it's showing outbound connections. These are the YARA rules. It will give you all the information that you need in terms of identifying it from the SHA-1 and how it was submitted. And then these are all the hits from VirusTotal. So obviously this is a bad piece of malware that was renamed as elevator.exe. And then we'll actually show you what happened on the local disk, what was dropped, any payload that was pulled down. We'll show you a screenshot of what executed. And this particular sample didn't have any, but it will also show you registry changes, so anything that was modified, changed, deleted, or attempted to be changed. It will show you network connections outbound. I actually have another report that I like to use that shows a report of a piece of malware that has a domain generation algorithm, and we actually capture all of the generated domains that they did a domain lookup on, and this is the one. But see, this shows additional information on what's happening locally on a system. So our malware analysis capabilities are very extensive, and so if a prospect doesn't have built-in sandboxing capabilities, because of the way we architect our environment, we can give them that capability without additional expense, because it's part of the platform. Now,
hey, Joseph?
Yes.
Yeah, so based on this report and the last one, like when do you decide to build some kind of rule set that then triggers ClearPass to actually do something?
So that's actually coming into the next level of integrations where that's going to be part of the automation in ThreatOps. But right now, these are going to be manual. Now, understand that if we get this detection, this is for a binary, right? If the detection is associated with an attacker, then that attack is already going to show up, and then you can choose, and let me show you that automated, you can choose to block that automatically through the ThreatOps function, or with other things like firewalls, you can set it to automatically block something based on the level of the alert, or even specific types of alerts. So let me show you that very quickly. Within policy, you can change the attack policies, the system attack policies, so that specific types of attacks, you can, let's see, let me look for a high one. Here's an OpenSSH challenge and response one. I can edit that to automatically block whenever I detect that specific type of attack, or I can do blocking based on and depending on the integration again. With ClearPass, I can't specify that, but with, actually, let me check. With things like firewalls, I can specify to automatically block. With ClearPass, no, I cannot set to automatically block. But so on a policy level, you can do that individually. So for something that is malware, you can specify for all malware to automatically block. For something, you can even specify for ransomware, you want to automatically block that, and it will do so across all blocking mechanisms that we've integrated. But once we get ThreatOps with more integrations, we can automate pretty much all of those steps within that response cycle. So as soon as it detects an event, it will query a SIM for more event information, do the correlation, score the attack. If it meets a particular threshold, it will kick off blocking and then kick off threat hunting through our other integrations to find additional systems that are potentially infected based on a binary match for a SHA-1 hash or a signature of some sort. So that's all in development right now, and we're getting our release for our first level of ThreatOps should be end of this quarter.
Thank you.
Sure. I want to leave some time for question and answer because we're getting to about 12 minutes out. So were there any questions?
So the only one we haven't answered is, I guess, your competitors. You've shown us a couple of ours. People want to know if BotSync is in basically competitive space with FireEye or like Fortinet Sandbox. What other tools do you guys compete against?
Let me go ahead and take about it. So the folks like Forescout are actually more of partners than they are of competitors, and we integrate with them from both a deployment standpoint as well as being able to do the automated blocking, quarantine, and be able to do additional threat hunting as we continue down the path of ThreatOps. So very much a partner standpoint. Most of the major firewall, NAC, endpoint vendors, there's really no competition at all. I mean, we may all compete for a share of wallet, but from a technology standpoint or a gap or problem that we solve, there isn't. The folks that we'll come across that are in the deception space, so TrapX, for example, they have network-based deception systems. And so when we compete with them, we compete on the network side. They're using emulated systems, and they have introduced the idea of using some real OSs, but the way that they're doing it is in a very limited and partial fashion. So from an authenticity standpoint, what Attivo provides is much more authentic and complete, plus also the way that they design their technology, it's inline versus projecting the decoys, so much more network intensive and intrusive than what we do for our deployment. And it also comes with some scalability limitations because of that. At the endpoint side, we will compete with a company called Elusive Networks. But again, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you need both network and endpoint to be able to detect both credential and lateral movement. And so out in the field when we compete, there aren't many companies that are willing to just get a partial solution. And so we do believe that the comprehensiveness of the endpoint deception and decoy and of course the inclusion of network and endpoint give us a competitive advantage against elusive in that area. There are some other newer players that are starting to come out, like you might come across a Symmetria or an Acalvio, but actual deployments out there, we haven't really seen them. And so, again, going back to a platform maturity and reliability, they're unproven, and so it's very hard for us to compare the technology because we just don't see them out there yet. So no, Joseph, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I do. So regarding other things, so from a competitive standpoint, we don't really compete with other sandbox technologies or those type of things. What we do is we enhance existing capabilities. So FireEye goes through several hundred, thousand binaries, and they can't, even with clock acceleration, be able to analyze them all. Our malware sandbox is really just sort of ancillary to our primary function, which is detection, but we make it available because some companies want a deeper analysis of certain binaries, and so we can actually execute in real time for months at a time, where with certain malware, they will hibernate for 2 weeks or 30 days before they actually even call home. So by that time, they will have bypassed most inline malware, malware sandboxing techniques. Because they wait so long. And so with us, because we don't have a limitation into how long you can execute a particular binary, we consider ourselves supplementary and complementary to any other existing sandbox solution. And again, our primary function really is detection. So we don't try to displace or replace any function because we look internal to the network. What we do is we try to enhance all other existing solutions by giving them that additional visibility they may not normally have, or they have a hard time getting. So for us, it's not really about displacing or competing in that space. It's more about augmenting existing solutions to make them work better by giving them the additional internal visibility that they don't have. Does that answer the question?
I think so. And then in regards to Exchange or Aruba Exchange and our integration, I did notice that there's syslog messaging, and then is there an API integration as well? And what type of API are you guys publishing?
We have a RESTful API, and we do. There's a lot of ways we can push data out. So we do syslog as a matter of course, and we also output via a common information model format specifically for Splunk. We have integrations with certain SIM vendors so that we can push information out to them, and we can query them for our deceptive credential reuse on production assets. So there's a lot of things that we're working on, deepening the integrations and expanding our integration pipeline with additional partners.
Perfect. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions coming in. I want to thank you guys very much for doing this today for us. I appreciate it very much.
It was our pleasure.
Anything else, Ann?
Our pleasure. And
Go ahead, Carol.
Just to say, if any other questions come up, feel free. Definitely you can contact your sales or account manager out in the field, or if you want to send something to us, you can just send an email to marketing@attivonetworks.com or partners@attivonetworks.com, and we'll definitely be open to helping you out in any way we can.
Great, thank you everyone. So we will post the recording and slides on Aruba PDF Sales Essentials before the end of this week. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you in next week's sales chat.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.